Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the incidents of violence and breaches of peace that occurred during and after the general elections of October 2025. And today we shall have the special occasion of the presentation of the Commission's report right here at Makoni in Dar es Salaam. the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania and the President of Zanzibar are also alive and right here. You are warmly welcome. Let's kindly get seated. May we all rise as we welcome the President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, arriving at the moment. Madam President, may we get seated.
Mheshimiwa Dr. Samia Suluhu.
Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania. Distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, Madam President, we meet here today for the occasion of the presentation of the commission that you established, of the inquiry of the instance of violence and breaches of peace that occurred during and after the general elections of October 2025. Before we further move forward, now for the introduction of various leaders that are in attendance. With us, we have Honorable Ambassador Dr. Nchimbi, the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, President of Zanzibar, Chairperson of the Revolutionary Camp, Dr. Mwigulu Lameck Nchemba, the Prime Minister of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Musa Hassan Zungu, the Speaker of the National Assembly of the United Republic of Tanzania. We have the Honorable George Masaju, Chief Justice of the United Republic of Tanzania. Chief Justice Zanzibar. Madam President, we also have the Ambassador Moses Kisluka, the Chief Secretary. Honorable Hamza Johari, the Attorney General of the state. Kindly recognize the presence of our former leaders. So much respect may you all raise. The former Prime Ministers, former President of Zanzibar, thank you very kindly. We have Honorable Comrade Wasira, the CCM Tanzania Mainland Deputy Chair, and his delegation. Have the Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Mura Mahendeka, the Permanent Secretaries and Deputy Permanent Secretaries present herein. We have our host, the Regional Commissioner of Dar es Salaam, Honorable Chalamila, as well as other regional commissioners that are present herein, all of them. We have our heads of defense and security organs. I'd also allowed to recognize the presence of the former retired Chief Justice Mohammed Chande Othman, the chairperson of the Presidential Commission that we will be presenting today, members of the Commission, as well as the Secretariat. Madam President, we also have political party leaders, presidential runners, and candidates of 2025, and their vice presidential candidates. Honorable Tungi, political party registrar. We have Justice Mwambegele, Chair of the Independent National Electoral Commission, various leaders of the government, religious leaders, popular elders, Taliso, various social groups. I'd also love to recognize all leaders that are present herein and those who have had the opportunity to participate here. I'd also love to recognize the presence of the members of the press. Madam President, with utmost respect, following the brief introduction, apologies. May I kindly recognize the presence of honorable ambassadors and representatives of international organizations. Thank you very kindly for being with us here for this special occasion. Now, with your consent, I would love to welcome the Chief Secretary, Honorable Ambassador Moses Kisuluka, for the opening remarks. You are warmly welcome.
Mheshimiwa Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, Rais wa Jamhuri.
Honorable Your Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable John Chimbi, the Vice President of Tanzania, Dr. Mwinyi, the President of Zanzibar and Chairperson of the Revolutionary Committee, the Right Honorable Mwigulu Lameck Nchemba, Prime Minister, Honorable Hassan Zungu, the Speaker, Honorable Judge Masaju, the Chief Justice, former leaders and retired leaders that are present herein. I understand that we have the top leaders, and I thank you for your attendance. Honorable ministers, senior government officials that are present herein with us, honorable ambassadors and representatives of international organizations, Honorable Stephen Wasira, the CCM Vice Chair, as well as Honorable Asha Rose Mingiro, CCM Secretary General, and all political party leaders that are here. Honorable Mohammed Shande Othman, the Commission Chair, and members of the Commission, leaders for religious institutions, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the United Republic of Tanzania.
Tanzania, the result of the task given to us. On behalf of my fellow commissioners and the Secretariat of the Commission, I wish to convey my sincere gratitude to you, Your Excellence, for the great confidence you placed on us by entrusting us with this important task that is of a great significance for the future of our nation. And I also thank you for the cooperation that you received through the Office of the Chief Secretary, which enabled us to complete this task. I and my colleagues on the Commission, we owe a profound debt of gratitude to our fellow Tanzanians who trusted us and gave us exceptional cooperation to the extent that you graciously approved an extension of time to ensure that no one with evidence or views who, of his or her own will, was ready to be part of the journey of healing the nation, to be denied the opportunity to communicate with us, and we thank you so much. Everywhere that you went, the people who appeared before the Commission spoke about what happened during and after the general election of October 2025 and acknowledged that that is not a reflection of who we are as Tanzanians, and by our nature, by our demeanor, by our character, and the upbringing imparted by the founders of our nation. Many of those who were injured, who suffered bereavement through the loss of loved ones, those whose properties were destroyed or stolen, they have acknowledged, and they have every right to do so because they carry the pain They have, all those who communicated with the Commission through various channels, trusted us and gave us great cooperation. And we believe that the report that we are presenting to you today, together with its recommendations, carry the collective national resolve to heal wounds, ensure accountability whenever it is warranted, and above all, to learn and move forward. I also wish to thank my fellow commissioners, together with the Secretariat of the Commission, for working tirelessly through all 153 days. And finally, though not of least in importance, we acknowledge that the work of the Commission could have not been carried out successfully without the cooperation we received from the leaders and public officials at different levels, stakeholders from the public and private sectors, and the Tanzanian public at large. Your Excellency, great investment that the government has made in improving the health sector has proved to be of tremendous assistance during the emergencies that arose. Health workers at health centers and hospitals, public, faith-based and private, they performed a remarkable task under extremely difficult conditions, with some remaining on duty for more than 72 hours consecutively in order to care for the injured. And we also thank the leaders of those facilities for providing the Commission with all the information we required. We also likewise extend our gratitude to the experts from various disciplines who assisted the Commission in understanding specialized matters, including scientific examination of certain exhibits, postmortem examinations, ballistic examination, photographic analysis, as well as issues of experts relating to psychology, sociology, and the issue of economic and finances. Your Excellency, the principal task of the Commission was to establish on the incidence of violence during and after the general election of October 25, guided by the following 6 terms of reference. So today, we are here 19 kilometers from the first incident that happened in October 2025 in Kimara, Baruti. And so our terms of reference say, first, to investigate and establish the true cause of the violence that occurred during the general elections of October 2025 and few days after. Number 2 is to investigate the principal objective intended by those involved in planning and carrying out those acts of violence and breaches of peace. And number 3, to investigate and determine the consequences arising from that violence, including death, injuries, destruction of property and infrastructure, as well as economic and social impacts. Number 4, to investigate the circumstances and measures taken to identify and respond to the violence that occurred. Number 5, to recommend areas requiring further strengthening in order to enhance the accountability of leaders and citizens in safeguarding peace, the rule of law, human rights, good governance, and a robust system of political, social, and economic dialogue leading to national reconciliation, so as to ensure that such violence does not occur. And to investigate any other matter which the Commission may consider relevant and consistent with its mandate. And so the scope of our work involved investigating the events during and after the general elections of October 2025 and all matters related to those events as set out in the terms of reference. The inquiry also covered 202 of the most affected locations in 21 districts and 11 regions, namely Dar es Salaam, Mbeya, Songwe, Mwanza, Geita, Arusha, Iringa, Dodoma, Shinyanga, Mara, and Ruvuma. In addition, the Commission visited Zanzibar and Kilimanjaro region as sample areas where there had been no violence in order to learn from the circumstances that had resulted in stability over there. The methodology of the inquiry. Your Excellency, the first step of the Commission's work was to establish its rules of procedure pursuant to Section 11 of the Commission of Inquiry Act, Chapter 32, in order to guide its operation. The Commission also prepared the methodology that governed the manner in which it carried out its work in accordance with the terms of reference. In gathering evidence, information, and views, the Commission used both primary sources and secondary sources, employing qualitative techniques and quantitative techniques. Primary sources included witnesses, eyewitnesses to events, and various stakeholders through face-to-face interviews and discussion sessions. These interviews also involved political and religious leaders, government leaders in office, and retired leaders. Secondary sources were used to collect, review, and analyze various documents in order to establish the truth and verify what had occurred, including reports of various commissions of inquiry from within and outside the country. In addition, the Commission adhered to international standards applicable to inquiries of this nature, particularly in ensuring the safety, confidentiality, and protection of witnesses and informants. All witnesses, eyewitnesses, and informants who did not wish to give evidence or information openly or in public did so in private. And one of principal methods used was face-to-face interviews, in which the largest group involved consisted of victims, the bereaved, the injured, those who had relatives gone missing, those who had properties damaged or stolen, and through public and closed hearing, as well as taking sworn statements, affidavits. A total of 1,323 victims were heard, and sworn statements were taken from 953 victims. The Commission received a total of 149 written submissions by post, 283 delivered by hand to the Commission's office, and 457 by email. It also received a total of 4,891 questionnaires, 33,250 messages, 23,195 WhatsApp messages, and views through the Commission's telephone lines. During the visits to the region, the Commissions conducted 170 focus group discussions with a total of 2,099 participants, and in Dar es Salaam alone it conducted 31 group discussions involving 1,466 participants. Your Excellency, in the regions and districts mentioned, the Commission met victims, the bereaved, the injured, those who had relatives gone missing, and those whose properties were damaged or stolen, special groups of citizens, including food vendors, motorcycle riders, petty traders, homeless children, and small-scale entrepreneurs, etc. Detainees accused of involvement in various acts of violence, religious leaders, representatives of institutions and NGOs, social welfare officers, retired and serving public and political leaders, officials of the defense and security organs, doctors from hospitals and private health facilities, regional medical officers and their teams, regional prosecutors, regional and district security committees, as well as other stakeholders willing to provide the information, evidence, and views needed for the Commission's work. However, there were few political parties, politicians, activists, and leaders of NGOs who were invited in writing to appear before the Commission but did not do so. The Commission is satisfied that those who did not appear did so of their own free will, which we respect, and not because they are denied or lacked the opportunity to be part of this journey. Your Excellency, the digital evidence formed an important part of the Commission's inquiry, particularly in understanding the human impacts. A total of 450 still images, 860 video recordings were collected through various means, some of which had been circulated online more than once. These images were obtained or submitted by eyewitnesses, informants, defense and security organs, and open sources, including the media and social media platforms. In order to establish their authenticity, some of the images were analyzed and subjected to scientific examination using forensic systems analysis by authorized experts. The images that were widely circulated online in the media, some were genuine and authentic, while others were not authentic and had been manipulated using AI or were only half-truths. And so this methodology enabled the Commission to distinguish authentic images from inauthentic ones. One example, a photograph that was widely used to depict bodies in blue body bags being buried in a mass grave. According to the investigation, that image had in fact been used elsewhere in the world. The use of mixed evidence and information from diverse sources was intended to meet the standard of proof commonly used by international commissions of inquiry, namely evidence upon which any reasonable person would believe they were reasonable grounds to establish the facts. The Commission relied primarily on mixed evidence and information gathered from a variety of primary and secondary sources. Likewise, digital exhibits, in accordance to the importance of having evidence that is self-sufficient as well as evidence requiring corroboration. Findings of the inquiry. Having outlined the methodology, I now turn to the findings, the findings of the inquiry. The cause of violence. We'll begin with the cause of violence, which in the context of this report, we distinguish between the cause and the catalyst of the violence. A cause is the reason, origin, source, or root of an issue that has endured over time without resolution and has had adverse effects within society. A catalyst. A catalyst is something that arouses interest, momentum, enthusiasm, impetus, or motivation for a particular act. In other words, the cause is like fuel, while the catalyst is like a matchstick. Causes. The Commission received and catalogued a total of 31 matters identified by witnesses as causes of the violence during and after the general election of October 2025. After analyzing that list, the Commission classified and identified 5 causes and 8 catalysts that resulted to the incidents of October 2025. According to the findings, the violence during and after the general election of October 2025 arose from various challenges that had persisted in society for a long time without resolution. These causes include the following. First, there are political issues, including demands for a new constitution, democracy within the multi-party political system, grievances within political parties, demands for reforms to the Independent National Electoral Commission and the electoral system as a whole. Number 2, the economic issues, including the high cost of living, unemployment, and unequal access to employment and economic opportunities, unfavorable business and investment opportunity, the multiplicity of taxes and levies, and an unfriendly system of assessment and tax collection. Third, social issues including the erosion of morals and the decline of patriotism, failure to provide solution and appropriate answers to social grievances such as corruption, embezzlement of public funds, and allegations of abductions and disappearance. According to the statistics of the police force, between 2023 and 2025, a total of 758 people disappeared, were abducted, or staged their own disappearance. Of these, 513 were found, and 8 cases were filed and are still under investigation. So, out of a total of 758 people who disappeared or staged their own disappearance for various reasons, 245 remain unaccounted for. These figures reflect the complaints raised by citizens concerning the abductions and disappearances. In these incidences, the police force stated the reason for disappearance included romantic issues, superstitious beliefs, persons abducted by criminals for gain or property, people who have involved themselves in criminal acts out of hatred and revenge, people who abducted themselves owing to various causes such as indebtedness and to evade the hand of law, people who left without notice, and trafficking of humans. And number 4, unsatisfactory performance of certain public officials and public servants, particularly in the lower levels of administration, including failure to listen or resolve citizens' grievances in a timely manner, and the weak implementation of the recommendation of commissions that are established. And number 5 is the issues relating to international relations in the world of today and tomorrow, in which many nations place their own interests first as the basis of relations and employ various methods and strategies to place themselves in a favorable position to pursue their interests in other countries, especially developing countries rich in natural resources. Your Excellency, let me talk about the catalyst. The evidence and information show that certain politicians and activists used the challenges facing citizens arising from the various causes identified as an opportunity to persuade and incite citizens to participate in the violence during and after the general election by using various slogans and statements. The evidence and information show that certain politicians and activists use the citizens' challenges arising from the various identified causes as an opportunity to persuade citizens to participate in the violence during and after the general election through various slogans and statements. The Commission also established that there were specific catalysts which ignited the momentum for which violence occurred during and after the general election. These catalysts may be grouped into three groups or categories. The first category concerns social media, which, according to witnesses who appeared before the Commission, was used before, during, and after the 2025 general election on a greater scale. Content creators also emerged on these platforms, including topics aimed at mobilizing citizens not to participate in general elections or ensure that it does not take place. Social media were also used to organize discussion forums, to devise strategies and direct those who had agreed to participate in violence intended to prevent the general elections on how to achieve that objective. There are also witnesses who had participated in the violence and appeared before the Commission and admitted that some of them had been given special mobile phones and assigned the task of taking pictures and videos of incidents such as injuries and deaths, or taking pictures near TPDF vehicles together with images of places where the rioters had succeeded in causing destruction. And all those photographs and videos were then uploaded directly to social media in order to provoke public anger and mobilize others to come out and engage in violence because they have been led to believe that TPDF was on their side. The second category of catalysts consisted of statements made by certain politicians, which later evolved into slogans used by those who were carrying out the violence. Example of those slogans, we are going to just mention a few, with some of the participants in the violence admitted using them as follows: no reforms, no elections. October, we're ticking. We are coming out in October. We are determined that the election will not take place. Samia must go. We want to liberate our country. There will be no election under this government. We'll ensure that the country does not function until the government leaves office. There will be no election without systematic reforms. This government has lost legitimacy to govern the country. Public pressure must intensify until the government leaves office, and the process for obtaining candidates violated the procedures. The candidates are not legitimate, and the process must be repeated. The third category of catalysts relates to certain parts of the country where people who had intended to contest for councillorship and parliamentary seats had their name removed at the higher levels of their parties. And so they resorted and considered that the violence that was taking place would assist them in demanding changes to the system for obtaining candidates within their parties. And they covertly participated in mobilizing their supporters to take part in the violence, intended purpose of the people involved. Before explaining the findings of the inquiry regarding the objective of the violence, let me also talk very shortly about the concept of demonstration, the findings of the Commission as to whether what occurred on October 2025 constituted as demonstrations or not, the concept and the right of peaceful demonstration. Before discussing the objective of those who participated, incidents under investigation as acts of violence, it is important to answer the question: during and after the general election, if they were peaceful demonstration and therefore deserving of protection and defense under international, regional, and national treaties or laws or not? The answer to that question is important because some stakeholders, including human rights defenders within and outside the country, claim that those involved had a constitutional right to demonstrate on that day, even though it had been declared an election day. And so the Commission analyzed various international, regional, and national treaties, laws, and rules concerning the concept and right of peaceful demonstration and its limits. Your Excellency, demonstration is among the fundamental rights recognized under Article 21 of the International Government on Civil and Political Rights of 1966, that was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on 16th December 1966. Among other things, the article recognizes the right of peaceful assembly. The Covenant also permits states to impose limitations in the interest of national security, public safety, public health, or morals, and the protection of the rights of others. Such limitations must also take into account the fundamental right to life as set out in Article 6, which states that every human being has the inherent right to life, as well as Article 21, which recognizes the scope and limits of demonstration, provided that any limitation is lawful, legitimate, necessary, proportionate, and required for public protection and safety. On the area of regional standards, the right to assemble and demonstrate peacefully is recognized in the African Charter on Human and People's Rights of 1981 and the Treaty for Establishment of the EAC of 1999 as a fundamental right which must be protected and respected. In the African Charter on Human and People's Rights of 1981, the right to assemble freely and peacefully is recognized under Article 11. That article clearly provides that every individual has the right to assemble freely with others. It also permits states to impose restriction in the interest of national security, public safety, health, morals, and the rights and freedom of others.
The African Commission on Human and People's Rights adopted the guidelines on freedom of association and assembly in Africa. That was adopted to safeguard the right to demonstration on the African continent. These guidelines require member states to ensure that peaceful demonstrations are permitted in accordance with domestic law. The duty of the government is to permit assemblies, which is affirmed in national constitutions, and the police are required to protect demonstrators, and the excessive use of force is prohibited. National standards. The Constitution of the United Republic of Tanzania, 1977, guarantees fundamental human rights, including the right to life, the freedoms of assembly and demonstration, as part of the exercise of the freedom of opinion and expression, as well as the freedom to associate with others voluntarily and peacefully. In addition, the Police Force and Auxiliary Service Act, among other things, prescribes the manner in which the right to demonstrate is to be exercised. In exercising that right, the law sets out fundamental matters to be observed by both demonstrators and the government, such as the right to demonstrate and duty to give notice, the obligation to state the purpose of the demonstration and place of assembly. After analysis, the evidence and information concerning the events during and after the general elections in light of the Constitution provisions on peacefully assembly and demonstration and the freedom of expression, and after examining international and regional instruments of the laws of Tanzania concerning the government's obligation to protect the right of peacefully assembly, the Commission reached the conclusion that what occurred the day of the general elections of October 2025 were not peaceful demonstration, but rather acts of violence accompanied by breaches of peace. The conclusion is based on the following 4 reasons. The first, the events claimed to be demonstrations did not comply with the requirements of Articles 18 and 20 of the Constitution of the United Republic of Tanzania and the laws of country, including the requirement that the demonstration be peaceful and the notice to be given to the police force pursuant to the Section 42 and 43 of the Police Force Act. The right of every person is not a notice, and there is that in Tanzania. And to us, it is a notice for 48 hours before, like that in Portugal. But the second is the right of every person to participate in an election as a voter or as a candidate is a constitutional right under the Article 5 of the Constitution, which must not be taken away. The violence was planned and carried out on a day lawfully declared to be the day of the general election. Accordingly, committing acts of violence on that day amounted to depriving other citizens of their constitutional rights and legal rights, including the right to vote and stand for election. Third, participants of the violence during and after the general elections carried various kinds of weapons, including stones, iron bars, spears, chains, sticks, clubs, knives, matches, explosives, firearms, stings, caterpillar rushes and machetes, which is not permitted by the law in peaceful demonstration. And this is contrary to the international law and standards of Article 21 of the ICCPR of 1966 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights of 1981 and Articles 10 and 11 of the European Convention on Human Rights of 1950 and the national law and standards of Article 18 and 20 of the Constitution of the United Republic of Tanzania, none of which permit armed demonstrations. Fourth, international, regional, and national laws and standards do not permit demonstrations that cause public panic, endanger national security, destroy public and private property, or endanger the lives of other people. Once such conduct occurs, it falls outside the meaning of a peaceful demonstration. In light of the laws and rules governing peaceful demonstration internationally, regionally, and nationally, and in light of the evidence presented before the Commission, it is the view of the Commission that what occurred during and after the general elections of 29th October was not a peaceful demonstration and therefore outside the protection afforded by those laws and rules. Moreover, the Commission obtained clear and compelling evidence that the violence of October 29 were planned, coordinated, financed, and carried out by persons who had undergone training. The coordinators used various methods, including exploiting persons who lacked a full understanding of the scheme, delusioned use, while ensuring that the acts of violence occurred simultaneously in different locations in order to confuse and disperse the police force. Your Excellency, the information and evidence confirm that they were persons moving around in various places such as streets, colleges, markets and bus stands, persuading and recruiting different people to participate in violence during and after the general elections. For instance, children living in difficult circumstances, motorcycle riders and small-scale entrepreneurs stated that they were given between 10,000 Tanzanian shillings and 50,000 and were promised better jobs and a better life. It was further stated that from 12th October to the 28th of October, they were brought together, trained, prepared and mobilized to be part of the initiation and execution of violence on that particular day. It was also established that the groups that were persuaded were the ones that primarily involved in carrying out the violence, while the principal actors and coordinators were not present at the scenes of the incidents, which greatly contributed to their not being arrested. As a result, most of those who were arrested were ordinary citizens, including followers that swept along by events, or person induced by small payments or promises that they would benefit from the changes that are being planned without understanding the true objectives of the principal actors and organizers. There's one young man in Usa River, Arusha, 16 years of age, was induced, given 50,000 Tanzanian shillings to participate, and they promised, and in his own words, that he was promised to be given 5 million shillings, and by his, he said, I was given this plan that would remove me from the burden of poverty. That was just one of the very few witnesses who came before the commission. From the evidence, information and views obtained, the commission identified and classified in its official report 16 methods used by the principal actors and coordinators to facilitate the violence during and after the general election. Some of these methods, including erecting roadblocks, setting various properties on fire, using different signals for identification among themselves, using motorcycles to initiate the violence, and launching disturbances simultaneously in many places. And according to the intended purpose, according to the evidence that was presented before the commission, and based on the explanation I've given already, those events had the following principal objectives. 1. To prevent, end, or disrupt the general election of October 2025. From the evidence presented before the Commission, the primary objective of the violence of October 25 was to prevent and disrupt the general elections of October 29. This objective is reflected in various acts committed by the perpetrators, including destroying polling stations, attacking police officers, agents, and elections officials, destruction of property of elections officials issuing threats, causing harm, and carrying out attacks against citizens who turned out to vote, looting the property of election officials. And there's also evidence for those who have voted, and those who had voted and had ink in their fingers were either cut or attempted to cut, and some of them paid money so that they may save themselves from that. Secondly, this was to convey a message to the government. From the evidence, information, and views, including discussions with economic experts, it appeared that through the violence that occurred during the general elections, the youth who took part found an avenue to communicate to the government that they wanted to be heard and for the challenges facing them to be addressed. It was established that the coordinators of the violence exploited the citizens' grievances against the government when persuading them to participate. The third was theft and looting. According to the evidence, information, and views, among the perpetrators of the violence, there emerged large groups whose purpose was to steal and loot property. Direct evidence from victims who had their property looted or stolen, as well as digital evidence, both still and moving images, shows how acts of theft and looting were carried out by these groups. Examples including theft and looting in shops and other business premises in the regions visited by the Commission. These acts were also confirmed by some of the owners of properties and businesses who appeared before the Commission to give their evidence. The second terms of reference is to understand the human, economic, social, and psychological impacts of the violence. Human impacts, or impacts to human life, particularly the right to life. International law, regional law, Article guarantee every human being the right to life and the protection of that right by society. That right may be taken away only through a procedure prescribed by law. The Commission did not approach the analysis of the number of deaths as a mere exercise in counting numbers. Rather, it attached the utmost importance to human life and to the dignity that every deceased person deserved after death, which is also part of our culture. In its assessment, the Commission relied on numerous sources of evidence, expert advice and reports, including those from bereaved families, victims, and health personnel in hospitals, analyzed information from the Ministry of Health, public health facilities at national, regional, and district levels, and subordinate facilities, as well as those in private hospitals. The Commission also received burial permits from families. Other sources including registration, insolvency, and trustship agents, RITA, which has the mandate for registration of deaths, the Government Chemist Lab Authority, which is responsible for forensic and science and supervises DNA analysis, municipal councils, and the views of pathologists and other experts. The Commission had the opportunity to interview directly 80 doctors and specialist physicians from the public and private sectors in 11 regions that were visited by the Commission, together with still and moving images that were verified as authentic. The Commission's assessment is that the total number of deaths resulting to the general elections violence was 518, of whom 490 were male, representing 94.6%. 28 were females, representing 5.4%. Most of these deaths were unnatural. Natural deaths, they are not unlawful. It's only the judiciary can stipulate which is illegal, but in accordance to the commission, we recognize those who are unnatural. So the natural causes could be like elderly, and these are the unnatural causes. Dar es Salaam region recorded the largest number of deaths with 182 deaths, followed by Mwanza with 90, Mbeya 80, Arusha 53. Of those 518, 21 were children. Within that group, 15 were children aged 15 and 17, and 4 were aged between 7 and 10, and 2 were under the age of 5. A total of 502 deaths, representing 96.9%, were that of civilians, while 16, equivalent to 3.1%, were that of officers and members of the defense and security organs. Of the 518 persons who died, 773 were brought to the hospital already deceased. 121 persons died while receiving treatment. And for 24 bodies, no information was available. Out of the 518 bodies, 480, representing 92.7%, were identified and claimed by their relatives and families. Your Excellency, in post-mortem examination, under the Inquest Act, were conducted at various referral hospitals in Dar es Salaam and in the regions. On 260 bodies. Other bodies were not subjected to post-mortem examination because consent from relatives and families was not given, as they wished to collect the bodies of their loved one quickly for burial. Of the 260 bodies examined, most were found to have penetrating injuries caused by sharp objects or fractures in various parts of the body. Those injuries caused severe hemorrhage, resulting in death. In addition, 21 bodies showed no form of injury, and 6 bodies had burn injuries. Bodies not claimed by their relatives. Out of 518 bodies, 485 were identified and collected by the relatives from health facilities for burials. 9 were not identified and were not claimed. Of the 6 were buried in accordance to the regulations on the disposal of waste and human remains by local government authorities, which is the regulation in the country. 3 are still remaining, and they have been detained in Dar es Salaam and remain at the Muhimbili National Hospital to date. DNA analysis was also conducted on 274 bodies in order to collect information for accurate identification. This DNA information will assist in correctly identify the relatives of deceased persons whenever necessary. The Commission also undertook the expert analysis of post-mortem reports, and the Commission directed an expert specialist in pathology to analyze the post-mortem reports to determine the true causes of the death, of how those deaths occurred in parts of the bodies that were affected. In carrying out that assignment, the post-mortem reports of 219 bodies were analyzed. That analysis established all 219 bodies were the result of unnatural deaths, and the immediate cause of death in 147 cases were severe hemorrhage, in brain injury, asphyxiation, spinal cord injury, multiple injury, cardiac arrest, and in one case the true cause which could not be determined. Likewise, the underlying or antecedent causes of most of the deaths was gunshot injuries, accounting for 197 deaths, equivalent to 90%, while 22 deaths, equivalent to 10%, were unrelated to gunshots. The expert analysis further showed that 166 bodies had injuries to the arms and legs, 36 had injuries to the chest and abdomen, and 12 had injuries to the head and the neck. One body was missing some parts. However, due to the circumstances of violence and allegations made by some witnesses, the number of the deaths may change. Because there's a possibility that some relatives may have buried the bodies of their loved ones without taking them to the health facilities, or did not have the opportunity to appear before the Commission. Likewise, it is possible that there were injured persons who chose to obtain treatment outside the formal system and later died without their information being reported to the relevant authorities. The Commission also received evidence of allegations of concerning persons who had disappeared or remained unaccounted for since the period of general elections. The number of 518 could not be the final and conclusive one by the Commission. The Commission assessment regarding the deaths. The Commission recognized that these deaths have left a profound void within families and communities and have significantly affected the nation's workforce. The harm that has occurred has caused some families to lose their principal breadwinner, therefore placing them in a condition of economic and social dependency. The Commission received evidence regarding 39 persons who were alleged to have died or disappeared, including some whose bodies were reportedly first seen in hospitals and health facilities and identified by relatives, but which later could no longer be found when the relatives returned to collect them. Others stated that they buried the clothing of the deceased merely in order to confirm mourning. This is one of the most important matters in respect of which the Commission has made recommendations that may be addressed as early as possible. The Commission also received allegations from victims and other witnesses concerning persons who were shot, injured, or killed in places where there had been no violence or unrest. There were allegations of persons being shot in their homes, including inside houses, in sitting rooms, or inside their shops. These are grave allegations which indicate the possible use of firearms contrary to international, regional, and national guidelines and standards that govern their use. This is another matter that requires thoroughly criminal investigation, and the Commission has given their recommendations on this. Your Excellency, allow me to speak of the injured persons. The Commission's assessment shows us, as of March 31st, 2026, the number of injured persons had been treated in public and private health facilities was 2,390. Of these, 2,270 were civilians, representing 95%, while 120, representing 5%, were officers and members of the defense and security organs. It is possible that some of the injured persons are not included in the figure for various reasons, including possibility that some of the continue to receive treatment outside the other official health facilities, while others fled to neighboring countries, particularly for the border regions of Mbeya, Songwe, Arusha, and Mara, for the fear of arrest. Those who sustained serious injuries were numbered 219, representing 9.2% of all injured persons. Of these, 1,197 had injuries caused by gunshots, while 22 sustained injuries are not caused by gunshot. Most of the injured persons in this category had to be admitted for treatment. In addition, 2,171 persons sustained minor injuries and were treated and discharged. Of these, 833 people had gunshot wounds to the lower parts of their body, while 126 had injuries to the upper parts of the body. Medical examination of all injured persons who reached health facilities established that there was no injured person who had been a subject to torture. Your Excellency, there had been allegations of existence of mass graves. The allegations through international media and on social media regarding the existence of mass graves in the Kondo Cemetery area, Kunduchi, Kinondoni Municipal in Dar es Salaam. The Commission conducted investigations, including visiting and inspecting the entire cemetery area, conducting interviews, obtaining a report from the cemetery supervisor in Kinondoni Municipality, and collecting evidence from the supervisor of the Kondo Cemetery. The Commission also engaged various experts to undertake scientific examinations of these allegations, including satellite imagery that had been used. The opinion of those experts, including experts in remote sensing and geographic information systems, was that the allegations could not be substantiated. The Commission further carried out an inspection and established the Kondo Cemetery area is surrounded by residential settlement and is still used for seasonal farming activities, and it is under constant security surveillance. On the basis of the evidence and the Commission's field investigations, and taking into account the condition observed at the Kondo Cemetery area, together with the reports of the scientific experts, the Commission found that the allegations concerning the existence of mass graves at Kondo could not be substantiated. Economic impacts. The greatest economic losses were those relating to destruction of private and government property. The Commission has established from various sources that the value of damaged property amounted to 125 billion Tanzanian shillings. Of this, private property or private sector property belonging to individuals, fuel stations, CCM and banks were valued at 89 billion, equivalent to 71.2%, while public property, government property and property of institutions such as schools, TRA, the judiciary, police, DART, town roads, TANESCO and TTCL was valued at 36 billion shillings, equivalent to 28.8%. The private sector suffered the greatest losses compared to those in the public sector. Evidence from many victims who lost private property shows the pain they endured and continue to endure. For instance, there's one retiree informed the commissions as follows, and I quote, "After retirement, I went to Equity Bank Tanzania for a loan for a business vehicle in the amount of 180 million shillings before interest. I bought a tipper truck for registration number and I was repaying 6,942,000 every month. After purchasing it, the vehicle used to park at town roads yards at Kimara Temboni right after work. From the time it was bought, it has worked for only 2 months, and on October 29th, during the election violence, the town roads parking area was attacked and my vehicle was set on fire and completely burnt. I've tried to seek assistance from the insurer, but without success, because it had a comprehensive insurance and not insurance against political risk insurance. Small and medium entrepreneurs were looted off and had stolen from them property worth 1.6 billion. One witness from Tegeta stated, "I'm a mobile phone trader. On the election day, my shop was attacked by rioters who stole all the phones in the shop. Those phones had been bought on credit. I'm in a very bad state and I don't know what I will do. I do no longer have any capacity and I sit here, I'm overwhelmed with stress." It is possible that the value of property damaged or stolen from this group is even greater. There was those owing to challenges in maintaining business records and documentations. There was also losses in the financial sector. For instance, a total of 621.7 million was stolen from automated teller machines belonging to 3 major banks, CRDB, NMB and NBC. Other sectors that suffered economic impact included the decline in financial markets, disruptions in circulation of money, transport and logistics and tourism.
According to the February 2026 report of the Moody's International Credit Rating Agency, Tanzania's sovereign credit rating remained at B1, and this means that Tanzania continues to be regarded as creditworthy by lenders, as it was before the general election. Economists who met with the Commission emphasized, however, that if political risks are not properly addressed, that rating could decline. According to Bank of Tanzania, your decision, Your Excellency, to establish the Commission of Inquiry was a very sound one, and and an important starting point for building confidence in the Tanzanian economy. Other effects were the social effects. There are people who experienced emotional issues, spiritual, mental, and physical effects who require mental health and psychosocial support. Events such as death, permanent disability, bodily injuries, loss of relatives, and the looting or destruction of property that happened have caused psychological harm and social challenges among the people. These effects have manifested themselves in different ways, including emotional distress, grief, fear, loss of confidence in social and political systems. Under these circumstances, divisions have emerged and society has lost cohesion and mutual trust. Another group that was affected comprised of doctors, nurses, and attendants in health facilities, many whom worked continuously for 72 hours without returning home. And one of them says this: they wish to stop working in the health sector. Another witness from Shinyanga, and I quote, "After being shot in the leg, I lost the ability to walk as I used to, and my life has changed greatly. The lack of a bicycle, a wheelchair to help me move from one place to another, especially to school, has deprived me of the freedom to participate in normal life like other fellow youths. I have found myself living in sadness and emotional distress because I cannot go to school, associate with friends, or continue pursuing my dreams. I often feel worthless and abandoned, and this has caused me to live in loneliness." During the hearing of witnesses, the Commission identified 710 people in need of psychological support and took action. It referred them directly to the ministry responsible for community development so that they could be assessed and provided with psychosocial assistance. We are grateful that this was done and that all 710 victims were reached and provided with psychological services in the regions and districts. With reference to the terms of reference, were supposed to take measures to identify, prevent, and contain the violence. So on the area of identifying warning signs of violence, warning sign of impending violence on election day in October 2025, aimed at preventing the election, began to appear on social media approximately 6 months before the election day. At different times, from April to October 2025, TCRA was submitting reports showing warning signs of violence to the defense and security organs and other institutions so that appropriate actions might be taken. On 17th of October 2025, TCRA identified an online poster containing content inciting violence and the disruption of the election. The poster indicated that the objective of what we are said to be a nationwide demonstration was to prevent and disrupt the general election scheduled for 29th October 2025 In its report of 26th October 2025, TCRA also identified discussions on one of the social media platforms concerning how the violence will be carried out on election day. Those discussions indicated that on election day, those involved intended to damage electricity systems so as to plunge the country into darkness, set fuel stations on fire, and ban polling stations for the purpose of preventing or disrupting the election. Despite the online warning signs, which were more visible, there were also warning signs that the Commission discovered through witnesses who appeared before it. Examples include the existence of no fewer than 500 youth in buildings, forests, and camps in various parts of the country for 28 days, and they were accommodated and trained in preparation to carrying out violence on election day. The Commission also established that one of those houses in Dar es Salaam was situated approximately 10 meters from a police station. Although the Commission received evidence showing the existence of certain warning signs of plans for violence on election day, there is no evidence showing that such warning signs were identified and appropriate action was taken early enough before the incidents of breaches of peace. As I stated earlier, the breaches of peace that occurred demonstrated a high degree of preparation for the violence. The rioters used methods that had not been anticipated. These included carrying out acts of violence simultaneously in various parts of towns and elsewhere, using a dispersal strategy to prevent the police from being able to confront and control them easily. Just also remember that on the election day, many police were in polling stations and they had no weapons. Many witnesses who appeared before the Commission stated that they saw the signs of impending violence on the election day, and one saw the sign through social media and other gave evidence before the Commission about the fears they had. For example, one religious leader told the Commission that before election day, his child had information about violence that was being planned to prevent the election from taking place. After failing to persuade his father and mother not to go and vote, the child advised them at least to clean their fingers immediately after voting, because there were people who had arranged to cut off fingers of those who voted. The police and other defense and security organs at national, regional, and district level, like other Tanzanians, were caught unprepared and had not adequately prepared themselves for the kind of violence that occurred on 29th of October 2025. Which erupted simultaneously across 14 regions, 43 districts, and 202 locations. Through police councils, officers, inspectors, and rank and file officers were given the opportunity to explain how extensive and life-threatening the violence had been. As rioters had used various tactics and weapons against the officers. One officer confirmed that the police force had not expected the type, scale, and spread of the violence that occurred on and after the election day. And one states that we thought it's ordinary demonstration that could be dispersed. We thought they could not have, okay, measures taken. Some regional committees informed the commission through their reports about various measures they had taken to control threats of breaches of peace. Example, the Katavi Regional Security Committee stated in its report that after beginning to observe the warning signs of possible violence during the election period, it strengthened intelligence gathering strategies and acted upon the information promptly. In addition, the Regional Committee and District Security Committee began holding joint meetings, and during that period met 11 times. Similarly, the Kilimanjaro Regional Security Committee informed the Commission that after beginning to observe warning signs of possible violence during the election, it took various measures, including holding frequent committee meetings for purpose of exchanging information, meeting political parties leaders regularly, and meeting border groups. And Kilimanjaro region was one of the regions that did not experience violence. Your Excellency, let me also talk about the measures that are taken to contain the violence. The Police Force and Auxiliary Services Act specifies that the function of the police force include protecting citizens and their property. In addition, for the discharge of that function, police officers are permitted to carry arms in the course of their official duties. However, the authority to carry arms under that act does not amount to automatic authority to use such arms. The use of arms must comply with the principles laid down in the laws and in various guidelines governing the use of firearms. In Section 29, subsection 1, sets out the circumstances in which firearms may be used against people. And it states that firearms can be used during rescues or attempts to rescue other people from unlawful custody or prevent the provision of Section 29, subsection 1 of the Police Force and Auxiliary Services are consistent with the Principle 9 of the United Nations Basic Principles on the Use of Force and Firearms by Law Enforcement Officials, 1990. And so our law are consistent with Principle 9 of the United Nations. The Criminal Procedure Act, Section 12, 1 and 2, provides legal guidance among the Police General Orders under Regulation 274 of the Police General Orders that identify 4 cardinal principles collectively known as plan before the excessive use of force. And so the 4 areas are in accordance with the UN and regional areas.
Number 1 is proportionality, in the sense that the use of force must correspond to the threat in any threat. As resistance escalates from static to active or menace, and finally to lethal resistance capable of causing death. Second is legality. The legality of the use of force derives from the compliance with authority and procedures laid down by law. Under the Police General Orders, PGO 274, subsection 3, read together the Criminal Procedure Act and the Penal Code, the police force is legally authorized to use force where it is necessary to do so.
Kwa hiyo principle ya legality
So the principle of legality is in Tanzania legally. Third is accountability. Whenever an officer fails to observe the principles governing the use of weapons, that officer bears personal responsibility. Every officer or police is responsible personally under the misuse of the weapons, which is reaffirmed under various cases under the police, which were followed through the codes of laws. Lastly is the issue of necessity. The police may only use force where it is strictly necessary to do so as to control the situation in accordance with the threat presented. The Commission also went through the force compendium, which is in the PGOs as well. It undertook the force and measures taken different place to another, and they were different from one area to the other. There are areas where the initial presence of officers was sufficient to prevent the violence from escalating. That was the first level, that just the presence by their uniform and presence tend to. But there are other areas as well. Due to the degree of the threat to the lives of officers and other civilians, it became necessary to resort to higher levels of force, which are 6 of them. For instance, at Salaam Police Station, Dar es Salaam, one of the officers that was stationed there stated that the station was attacked by a group of over 150 persons with traditional weapons, including machetes, arrows, spears, and containers of petrol. In those circumstances, the officers were compelled to use tear gas and later decided to flee after being overpowered. Another witness from the Nyamagana police station in Mwanza described the situation at the Nyegezi main bus terminal, where a group of between 300 to 400 people armed with traditional weapons including machetes, swords, iron bars and clubs were engaged in violence, including setting people's property on fire. Because of the situation, the police was forced to use tear gas, and when the situation was and became dangerous, they were compelled to use firearms. According to that witness, the officers in that incident were 9 against a group of 400 rioters. Another police officer from Mwanza Riot Control Unit stated that on October the 30th of 2025 at around 1 p.m., when in the area near CRDB and NMB banks in Busweli, police officers were rescuing fellow officers and were compelled to use tear gases in order to disperse rioters and rescue their fellow officers who were in grave danger. The Commission also received witness where the police used force as follows. In October the 30th, a resident of Momba Songwe says during daytime he was at a well drawing water with her child. They heard explosions and she fled while carrying the child. The child fell to the ground after being shot in the head. One resident of Maruango in Arumeru district informed the commission of an incident involving his 35-year-old son who was shot 4 times by police officers in the Kimandolu area in October 29th while near his shop. According to the witness, his son was first shot and the police followed him and shot 3 bullets, breaking another under the heart, and it was difficult or impossible to remove the bullet, and the child is now receiving treatment at a referral hospital. This incident is one of those that require an in-depth investigation. In Mwanza as well, the commission received information concerning an alleged killing of about 13 persons who are said to have occurred in the Mjimwema area, Mwanza, while watching TV. One witness, who identified him as a survivor of the incident, informed the commission in his sworn testament that on October 31st, people believed to have been police officers stormed the kiosk and shot approximately 13 people, including himself, though he survived. And according to his account, besides himself, 2 others survived, one of whom was receiving at Bugando Hospital and the other in his home village. This is one of the incidents requiring thorough investigation. Madam President, the government has a duty through the police force and other defense security organs to ensure the safety of citizens and their property, and where any situation arises that may threaten security, the government through such organs must take appropriate measures to restore order in accordance with the law and applicable guidances. Where the measures taken have caused harm to civilians as a result of use of force by an officer or officers or defense or security organs, a prompt, independent and comprehensive investigation must be undertaken in order to establish the cause. The aim is to preserve public confidence in the government and its organ, to ensure that the shortcomings do not recur. The other terms of reference is the rule of law and accountability. Let me bridge this on the steps undertaken and accountability, of which I have spoken, or will address now. We have had many people who came before the commission. I think it is the expectations of many people that this day the commission to also submit to you after 153 days and publicly display the main perpetrators that planned, coordinated and financed the acts of violence. There's also an expectation that today, after 153 days, those who went against the rights to live, that we should publicly announce them. That is the expectation of many. However, in our view, we found that not fitting for 2 or 3 things. One, this commission is a fact-finding commission. Secondly, the jurisdiction to deal with criminal issues remain where they stand. They won't change by the incidents or occurrences. For instance, somebody has been hanged in Mwanza during the incident. That is something that the police force works upon. So things do not stand still because of the commission. The other is that these commissions and all inquiry commissions is that you cannot condemn a person without giving them an opportunity to answer. Now, despite people being called before the commission, they have to be called, listened, interrogated, and you should follow that, because if you don't do that and you go to the court, it is a constitutional right. So before condemning or saying who is responsible, saying so, these commissions will not name names. And lastly, there are people who want all activities in Tanzania should be placed in a single scale. We've said 202 incidents, areas, 202 areas. Now, one area in Kinondoni, how many incidents? The very same hour, the same day, 8 incidents in Kinondoni. So when we say 202 areas, Bunda is one area. But within Bunda, how many areas? But Ubungo is one area. But how many instances in Ubungo? So there are many instances, and we cannot measure all of them in the Tanzania, because there are some who want for us to say whether it was a sufficient use of force or not. So every instance that which used first in Kibamba, Ubungo, Dar es Salaam, and its environment and all that happened that day cannot be measured by the violence that caused the death of one person who was shot in Tegeta, Ubungo, and in Usalama Road, Kaya Bunju A, Kinondoni, Dar es Salaam. Likewise, all this cannot be measured by the incidents that caused the death in Kitiro, Tarire, Mara. Everything will be measured in accordance to the incident and allegations of that particular time. So the use of force must be measured in accordance to the areas of the incidents, the particular time, the activities of the people, the difference of the use, and as the law wants, they should be measured as the police officer who was there. So as the commission report, it was on 14 regions and 202 areas. So the commission has received the allegations of the use of force through affidavits and sworn testaments, but as I said, there is recommendations of which we beseech the President on how to further forward the tasks of the Commission from inquiry to investigation, particularly for particular results, so that the laws may be formed. The two last things that you have: one, reconciliation and a new constitution. The constitution has found the following. First, the events of October 2025, together with the long-standing challenges, have caused fractures and wounds within the nation. Therefore, national reconciliation and consensus are therefore essential steps in healing those wounds and restoring peace, trust, cohesion, and harmony within the society and the nation as a whole. Reconciliation should be cross-cutting, encompassing the political, social, and economic spheres, so as to further establish the truth, heal wounds, seek solutions, and reach political consensus, agree on foundational matters relating to a new constitution, and restore national unity and cohesion. The issue of reconciliation did not be started by the instance of violence, rather by you on the 4 R's philosophy, of which is part of the reconciliation. So it is not the instance of violence that brought reconciliation, it's a continuation. But secondly, considering the role of religious institutions in safeguarding the value of peace and fostering social cohesion within the society, there is a need for interfaith dialogue as a part of social reconciliation. Dialogue, reconciliation, and consensus among religious leaders will strengthen mutual understanding among them and enable them to agree on the boundaries between religion and politics in the execution of their duties and responsibility, after which their recommendations should be submitted to the government for appropriate action in the interest of political and social stability and avoid misunderstandings in the future. Third, reconciliation undertaken at the national level should cascade down to the level of local government authorities by using the existing administrative structures at districts, divisions, ward, and village levels. And fourth, in order to ensure that the process of national reconciliation and consensus succeeds and is able to overcome any deadlock that may arise, it is paramount to have an informal advisory council of elders, so that elders may provide guidance in resolving challenges and tensions within the society and other national matters. Lastly, Madam President, we had recommendations, including short-term, mid-term, and long-term recommendations, as you deem fit. The Commission submits various recommendations, including short-term, mid-term, and long-term recommendations. For the purposes of this presentation, allow me to mention only some of them. But there is no recommendation that stipulates establishment of a new institution. Short-term recommendations. 1. The government to establish an arrangement to ensure that persons who sustain disability as a result of October 2025 violences receive free medical treatment, including assistive devices and prostheses for those who will require them. Secondly, the government should designate a national day of mourning in memory of more than 500 Tanzanians who lost their lives during and after the elections. Third, the government should put in place a strategy and allocate resources for provisions of psychosocial support services, together with the conduct of a rapid assessment of the psychological and social effects in the areas affected by the October 2025 violence. Fourth, it is the view of the Commission that a new constitution should be in place by 2028 so that it may be used in the next local government elections of 2029 and the general election of 2030. Accordingly, the government should establish a committee of constitutional experts with a mandate to review the current constitution, the draft constitution prepared by the Constitutional Review Commission, proposed constitution of 2014, the reports of various commissions, committees, and task forces. After reviewing those documents, the committee of experts should obtain the views and contributions of citizens and then prepare a draft new constitution to be submitted to the people by referendum. We have found out that since 2014, there is over 16 million Tanzanians who did not participate in the 2014 election because they were under 18, and that is why it is important for this committee of experts to obtain views and contributions and prepare a draft constitution to be submitted to the people by referendum. And one religious leader said, a new constitution requires peace and calm, and we shouldn't do it out of anger. Fifth, the government should establish a commission of national reconciliation and consensus through the authority of the President at the Article 36 of the Constitution of the United Republic of Tanzania, which should be inclusive in composition and should oversee and guide reconciliation in the political, social, and economic spheres so as to further establish the truth, heal wounds, seek solutions and political consensus, and restore national unity. Next, alongside the Commission of the National Reconciliation and Consensus, an advisory council of elders should be established comprising certain retired senior leaders together with other respected and patriotic elders so as they may assist the Reconciliation Commission whenever deadlock arises. The law governing the Independent National Electoral Commission should be fully implemented, ensuring that the appointment of the chairperson and members of the commission is carried out in accordance with the law that is amended in 2024. In addition, the commission should be allowed to recruit its own staff so that they may be responsible for supervising electoral activities at least up to the constituency level. At the level of assistant returning officers and presiding officers, INEC should continue to use staff, and this will reduce the complaints from political parties and citizens concerning the independence of the Commission. 8. The Commission has also found that there are areas indicating possible criminal conduct and requiring accountability. It is therefore recommended that a commission of criminal inquiry following the instance of violence during and after the 2025 general election be established pursuant to the Commission of Inquiry Act, Chapter 33, because The first commission should be mandated to investigate and follow up on specific matters requiring further inquiry in order to address the allegations identified in this commission's report, but also to find those who are behind the violence, but also to dispute incidents involving deaths and injuries and bodies that have not been found. And ninth, the police force should formulate and implement a robust strategy to restore and strengthen its relationship with the people for the benefit of public safety and national security generally, as recommended by the Criminal Justice Commission. 10. The government and state organs should discharge their functions in a manner that clearly reflects respect for the context of a multi-party democratic system. This would help level the playing field and address the complaints by political stakeholders and the public generally concerning the absence of democracy within the country's multi-party politics. 11. The ethics of leaders should be closely monitored, including lifestyles and inconsistencies with the rules and codes of public service, so as to identify and prevent unacceptable conduct such as corruption and graft. 12. The National Youth Council Act, Chapter 441, should be implemented, and the Council should be established and begin function as a forum for dialogue on issues affecting youth. The medium-term recommendations. First, the government should strengthen accountability systems by ensuring that all officials, particularly those at middle and lower levels, listen to and address citizens' concerns in a timely manner and are held accountable when they fail to do so, to discharge their duties or where they violate the law. To implement this effectively, it is important to empower monitoring and evaluation units within its institutions, which, under the current structure, report directly to the head of institution. Second, the government should continue and give priority implementing the recommendation made by various commissions or task forces that establishes, including that of the criminal justice. The other recommendation is for the government to strengthen systems for recruitment and appointment to be fair and just. Number 4, the government to strengthen security and protection and surveillance along borders, especially those with multiple crossing points, in order to prevent unlawful entry to the country. 5. The government should strengthen community-based security through local government authorities by involving citizens, including restoring the tensile leadership by law. This will help identify scenes of criminal activity and enable appropriate action to be taken in time. For instance, the evidence established that various houses in residential areas were used as camps to accommodate youths who were being prepared and trained. However, the security systems failed to detect those camps. 6. There should be a robust system for overseeing opportunities that are extended to young people, such as loans, employment, procurement, and participation in government projects, to ensure that these are utilized in accordance to the law, procedures, and that there is no favoritism or political pressure. 7. The government to review budget priorities and reduce unnecessary expenditure so that more resources are directed towards economic empowerment of its people, and of which I think you have given directives on this. 9th, the government should take measures to improve legal framework for disaster management by expanding the scope of the Disaster Management Act so as to include disasters arising from incidents of breach of peace. These reforms should provide a communication system during disasters, involving all stakeholders and fast responders such as the Tanzania's People's Defense Force, the police force, fire and rescue force, health service providers, and citizens. In addition, emergency response preparedness exercise to be conducted for all stakeholders. This will reduce the impact of the disasters of that nature when they occur. Long-term recommendations. 1. The government should restore the requirement of all students completing advanced secondary education to undergo national service as a mandatory condition in order to instill patriotism and the capacity for self-reliance. Moreover, arrangements should be put in place to enable national service graduates to become self-employed through collaboration with the private sector. Secondly, the government should devise and implement a strategy for special residential barracks for officers and members of the defense and security organs in order to avoid conflicts of interest and safeguard their security as recommended by the Criminal Justice Commission. With your consent, I'd love to provide my conclusion. I have mentioned only some of the recommendations contained in the report. No doubt, the various stakeholders will have the opportunity to study them in greater detail within the report itself. Likewise, we expect within the next 3 days or so to meet with the members of the press together with other stakeholders for a broader discussion and clarification. Despite the instance of October 29th, I commend you, Madam President, for establishing this commission and allowing us to work for the greater good of the nation.
Tulisikiliza vilio.
We have listened to cries of those who have lost their loved ones, those who were wounded, and those who lost property. We saw the eyes of the young men who were arrested and asked in their future when we visited them in jails. We have met with families who do not understand to this day who and why were their loved ones wounded or hurt. But on the other side, we saw a Tanzania that is brave, patriotic, and full of wisdom. Listened to religious leaders calling for prayer of peace. We have seen elders with wisdom conveying the words of wisdom. We have got the collaboration of the people who came bravely before the commission. Not only that, not in a customary manner, but because of their love of the country. To come before the commission wasn't something ordinary. To a commission of this sort of inquiry for 153 days, we worked with them closely with over 60,603 people, which is equivalent to all the residents of Tukuyu, Bagamoyo, or Korogwe. So we are utterly grateful to the people of Tanzania for trusting us for this first step of which Her Excellency the President forecasted and saw as our way forward. With a very few and great and utmost honor, I'd love to convey my sincere gratitude round of applause. May we please get seated. May we stay seated. May we stay seated because we have cameras behind. With the utmost respect, I'd love to officially present the executive summary of the RIP. First, it is the executive summary, and then there is how we collected evidence, which has 2 volumes, affidavits of all the regions that we went through, post-mortem reports, and other annexes that were brought before the Commission, expert analysis, terms of reference, and the list of all people and stakeholders that came before the Commission. The Commission Chair now presents to the President of the United Republic of Tanzania. He made a presentation, and now he has handed over the report. We thank you, Honorable Justice, and the members. Madam President, I have the utmost honor to welcome you to address this public and the nation at large through various media. Let us all stand and welcome our President.
Honorable Dr. Emmanuel Nchimbi, Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania, I recognize the presence of all the retired former Vice Presidents, Honorable Dr. Senali Mwenye, President of Zanzibar and Chairman of Revolutionary Council of Zanzibar, and all the former Presidents of Zanzibar, Honorable Dr. Mwigulu Nchemba, Prime Minister of the United Republic of Tanzania, and I recognize the presence of former Prime Ministers, Honorable Musa Azan Zungu, Speaker of the Parliament of Tanzania, and I recognize the presence of all former National Assembly speakers, Honorable George Mcheche Masaju, Chief Justice of Tanzania, and I also recognize the presence of all former Chief Justices of Tanzania, Honorable Stephen Wasira, Vice Chair of CCM Mainland, and all the leadership of CCM at the national and regional level present here, together with all other leaders of political parties present, Honorable Ambassador Moses Kusiluka, Chief Secretary, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Permanent Secretaries and Deputy Permanent Secretaries, Heads of Defense and Security Organs present, Honorable Albert Chalamila, Regional Commissioner of Dar es Salaam, and all other regional commissioners present, Honorable Mohammed Chande Othman, Chief Justice and Chairman, former Chief Justice and Chairman of the Commission, together with other commissioners and the Secretariat of this Commission, Honorable Ambassadors and representatives of international organizations present, leaders of government institutions and private sector present, our religious leaders, members of the press, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. The United Republic of Tanzania, work and humanity will move forward. Honorable leaders and everyone, we are gathered here, and all the Tanzanians must join together to thank Almighty God for granting us life and good health and enabling us to witness this important event. that is monumental for the future of our nation. It is an important event because we have all waited for it with great eagerness and expectation so that we may understand the reality of the events of 2025 October and our direction as a nation. I created this commission whenever issues like this happen that need an expert eye. And this is the 6th or 7th commission in the history of our country. And in the second time, we also had another commission for the incident that happened in Kilombero in 1986 that was led by Judge Chipeta. And in the third leadership, we also had another commission of 1996 that was led by Judge Barnabas Samata, and another commission that was formed for all the incidents that happened post-election in Pemba. And then after, I was also a part of the Reconciliation Commission. And on the fourth phase, we also had another commission for the killings of the mining traders that was led by Judge Kipenka Musa, and another commission for breaking of human rights during the Ihefu pastoralist in 2007 that was led by Judge Othman Chande, who is the same who led this commission currently. And all these commissions, we didn't really have clear reports, but in the 6th phase, as you understand, we came up with this commission to look into the human rights and the commission that has been able to analyze the incidents that happened pre and post the general election under the leadership of Judge Othman Chande, and I announced it, and today the commission has brought us its results. And in this context, allow me to take this opportunity to highly commend you, former Chief Justice Honorable Mohammed Chande, the commissioners and the secretariat of the commission for the great work you have done with effort, professionalism and great patriotism. You have worked under difficult conditions. You have been able to overcome obstacles and demonstrate our country's ability to address its own challenges and at international standards and methodology. I also joined the chairman of the commission in thanking so much the victims of October 2025, as well as representatives of special groups, CSOs, present government and political leaders in office, and retired political parties leaders who appeared before the commission. Your cooperation in the commission demonstrates your readiness to participate in this journey of healing the wounds of our nation, or the injuries that plagued our nation. I also thank the international community for caring about what happened to us. That is a major challenge in Tanzania's history. The Secretary General of the United Nations sent a special envoy, Honorable Ambassador Perfect Onanga Anyanga, and the Secretary General of the Commonwealth sent a special envoy, the former President of Malawi, Honorable Dr. Chakwera, and also the leadership in the Union of Women Presidents, led by the former President of Liberia. They came to Tanzania to follow up with what happened, and all this we have been able to have constructive discussions to build our nation. They have all assured us of their readiness to cooperate with us in any step that we may need assistance and cooperation. I also thank all stakeholders who agreed to meet with these special envoys, including leaders of political parties. And on the other hand, there are those who use the October 2025 incidents to mock and point fingers at us. we were not very much surprised because people's perceptions differ. And there was a great distortion of information that was done, especially by external and international media houses. According to the custom of the civilized, whenever an unfortunate incident that is heartbreaking happens, we expect to be consoled instead of being mocked or ridiculed. In any way, the ones that were hurt by the incident is us Tanzanians. It is us who have lost our children. It is us who lost our relatives, our family, and our friends. And so by all means, the ones who were mostly affected were Tanzanians to a greater extent. So there is no way someone who is not a Tanzanian to have more pain than the Tanzanians. It is not possible. Maybe if there was a possibility of taking the days back, we wish they would go back so that all the incidents that happened in October 25, for it to be a dream and the history to be written afresh so that we can remove the mark that we have put. And even Dr. Malim Julius Kambarage Nyerere once said, when we were getting independence, what we were given by the colonialist was not a nation, but it was a combination of tribes. But because of the mentality of our founding fathers, they created one nation that is led by the rest of people. And our language, which is Swahili, is used as a tool to bring us together and protect our nationality. In 1991, when our founding father appeared before Tanzania to argue for the nation to adopt a multi-party political system, his intention was to create an environment for differing ideas and not to create chaos. And specifically, once again, I thank the people, Tanzania, for not propelling acts of breaching of peace despite the motivation that was done through various social media platforms. And once again, I thank you all for your calmness and your faith in the country as we are waiting for this report. Thank you so much, Tanzanians. My fellow Tanzanians, the United Republic of Tanzania did not just come up by chance, but it was created by our founding fathers, by their visions and actions. And if it was built, it is truly that there are foundations that made this country, which has more than 126 tribes, to stand together in unity. And even our founding father once said in his speeches that when we were, as I said earlier, that when we were getting independence, we were just a group of various tribes, but because of the vision and the intentionality of our founding fathers, they created one nation and a country that is not led by what I said earlier. All the leaders and the people of Tanzania, the late Kwame Nkrumah, when speaking about the African unity, often said, if you want to eat an elephant, you must cut it into pieces, meaning that it is impossible to exploit Africa if it is united. Unfortunately, his dream of building one African nation, that is the United States of Africa, has not been realized to date. Africa remains fragmented and has not yet achieved economic liberation. This philosophy also applies to individual countries, that when a country has unity and solidarity, it becomes difficult to exploit and dominate it politically or economically. Many nations with abundant resources have been undermined and plunged into conflicts to facilitate the extraction of their resources. And truly, one of the major causes of Africa's poverty is conflicts and internal wars that, if you examine closely, those instigating them are outside and continue to plunder the resources of those particular countries. My fellow Tanzanians, unity is power and disunity is weakness. Let me ask you all to continue standing with our unity so that we do not give an opportunity to be destroyed by the enemies of our country. Honorable leaders and my fellow Tanzanians, at this juncture, I am now about to address what happened on 29th of October 2025. We'll be deceiving ourselves if we do not say the truth that what happened during that time shook our nation. They shook us, truly. And there's a Swahili saying that says, getting lost is what helps you to know the way. We have touched a burning coal and we have learned. The Commission has told us that all the violence was planned, coordinated, financed, and executed by people with training and equipment for committing crimes and destruction. Likewise, it has also been established that the objective of those involved was to disrupt the election and create a leadership vacuum so that the country will become ungovernable. That is why the violence occurred on the election day. And to achieve their aim, we were told that the perpetrator focused on destroying infrastructure and key facilities. Experts in political science present here and anyone with understanding of governance can reflect on what would have happened if the objectives of those perpetrators had succeeded. Truly. If all the efforts of our security organs have made Tanzania to be where you're seeing it today, apart from that, we would be talking of a totally different scenario. And at this juncture, it doesn't mean that for those that you are going to realize that they have gone against their jobs, that you are not going to hold them accountable. They will still be held accountable. Honorable leaders and my fellow Tanzanians, despite what happened, there have been a lot of information distortion. Various groups and individuals were giving out statistics on deaths and people who were affected without being sure. And these statistics were meant on diluting or exaggerating the amount or the level of impact that took place. And our elders said, when you speak the truth, the lies will be on the side. And today, the Commission has been able to present to us the right information. The Commission has presented the report that has expert analysis, and the truth is realized. The statistics of the number of the people who died, the ones who are injured, and those affected have been analyzed, and we have all heard. And we've also been informed of the presence of some of the issues raised by the people who have lost their loved ones. And let me assure you that just like what was recommended by the Commission, the government will continue doing its investigation to ensure these things and get appropriate and the right information. We have received the recommendation from the Commission and we will work on it and we will not waste time. My fellow, in remembering those who have gone before us, I ask we stand for 1 minute and let us pray to God to rest their souls in peace. Each one of us in their own faith. Amen. And with great sadness, let me also offer my deepest condolences to the parents who lost their children and for all the Tanzanians who lost our fellows, our relatives, our family. And I also like to thank the Ministry of Health and other stakeholders, including private and public hospitals, for working day and night under difficult conditions to save lives of the Tanzanians, my people. From the time of independence till now, the United Republic of Tanzania chose to follow a democratic system. At different times, we have had single-party democracy or multi-party political system. From 1992, we chose to follow multi-party politics and democracy, and in that system, we are continuing learning and growing in that direction. And I remember Mwalimu Nyerere in his speech of June 1991 in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, he said, and I quote, "Democracy is not a bottle of Coca-Cola that you can order. Democracy must be developed according to the country itself. And this is our hope." End of quote. In other words, democracy must be built in accordance with the environment and more specifically culture and tradition of that particular country. And for us as a country, let us be allowed to build our own democracy according to our own culture, our own traditions. When you gave me the mandate to lead this country, I identified the existence of challenges in the system of democracy and multi-party politics in Tanzania. There were many complaints from political party stakeholders and others regarding restriction on political freedom, freedom of expression, and challenges in the electoral system. Through the R4 philosophy, that is reconciliation, resilience, reforms, and rebuilding, I took several steps, including the formation of a task force to address issues of multi-party democracy, holding discussions with political stakeholders that led to amendments to the Political Parties Acts, and also the registrar of our political parties. And other steps taken include expanding the scope of political activities and increase the freedom of the media. Despite all that, there are some challenges to be tackled on the area of political sphere, including the issue of constitutional reforms. As you understand, and as how I promised, we are planning to complete this process in the second term of the sixth phase, and it is a matter of priority in the CCM manifesto. On the other hand, the Commission also recognizes the existence of complaints from citizens regarding the accountability of leaders in addressing challenges and serving citizens. And there are also grievances on the areas of corruption, embezzlement, and misuse of public resources, the issue of employment, lack of a friendly business environment, and they've also been raised. Also, the report has talked on the issue of we've also recognized the challenges that have been arose and recommended steps to be taken so as to increase the protection of the country and our people. Honorable leaders and the people of Tanzania, it is true that in any journey of development, challenges are inevitable and we must face them together. Essentially, the real concept of development is to confront and resolve challenges in order to move forward. This is our role, the government, private sector, and everybody else. It is not a wise thing to take these challenges to become a catalyst or a cause of destruction and criminal acts. These challenges and more are existing in various countries all over the world, even developed countries. However, these challenges are also present in our neighboring countries, but their people have not used these challenges as a catalyst to destroy their infrastructure or resulting to their economies to be weakened. It is true that what happened in October 2025 do not eliminate or reduce our challenges. The chaos, violence acts happened, but they have not eliminated or reduced our challenges. Matter of fact, they have increased them. And I stated earlier, if those violences had not been controlled, this country would have been severely destroyed, and it would have taken us years to get back on our feet. And so I ask my fellow Tanzanians to understand that it is very easy to lose peace, but not easy to restore it. It is easy to destroy a country, but difficult to rebuild it. And here I want all of us to understand that the destiny of Tanzania is in the people of Tanzania. The influence of outside or external influences will just destroy us. But to bring together the peace and rebuilding our nation, and so let us be very careful that the people of Tanzanians, we are the ones that are building our nation. When we break our nation, we have nobody else to help us. We are going to get loans that are going to destroy us even more. So, while destroying it, you can easily get help. And so, of all the difficult issues that we have gone through, let it be a lesson. And there is a quote by Nelson Mandela that says, meaning, in order for us to grow, we need to learn from the issues that are pleasant and unpleasant. And we have learned from these difficult times, and so let us work together so that we can be stronger. We have had the issues identified by the Commission and the recommendations presented. We have also witnessed the report and the copies here. So this is the report for Her Excellency. So the one who came up with this commission is Her Excellency the President, and so this report belongs to her. So nobody else should come up and claim ownership of the report. The commissions that were formed in the earlier years, they were not given as much freedom, but now they are given freedom, and I have received the recommendations, and I assure the Commission that we have received the recommendations that have been presented, and the ones that we are going to read from these copies presented, and we are going to work on them immediately. And at this stage, I call upon my fellow Tanzanians to unite in restoring our nation to its foundation, and in reflecting the recommendation from the Commission, the government will take the following steps. First, within the next few days, we're going to have a National Reconciliation and Concessions Commission. But first, we are going to have a deep analysis of all that have been presented from the Commission, but then in a short while we are going to create a National Reconciliation and Consensus Commission so as to oversee and lead discussions and reconciliation in political, social, and economic spheres to heal wounds and divisions and restore national unity and solidarity. let me remind you that the intention to have a reconciliation commission existed even before the incident of October 2025, and it was one of my commitments to be implemented within the first 100 days. Unfortunately, the chaos and the incident that took place in October 2025 delayed the implementation of that commitment, as even the terms of reference of the commission will need to be different so as to be in alignment with the present and the current circumstances. And after the reconciliation commission, that is going to help us to make informed decisions in amendments of the national constitution. We are also going to come up with a special body, a criminal investigation body, to do what was recommended by the commission. And that part is going to look into the areas that have been identified and know the ones that planned, coordinated, organized, and financed all the incidents of October 2025. And it is also going to look into the criminal acts that took place, because they are chaos. We are going to focus into that group. We have pictures, and they are going to direct us in making informed decisions. And this body and this commission, it is also going to look deeply the death of our children, and also look into the issue of the bodies that people are still claiming them. And the commission will also focus on those people who have been abducted and those whose information is nowhere to be found. The commission is also going to look into all those areas. And number 4, the government will cover the expenses, the medical expenses of all the victims, and it is also going to provide prostate organs so that they can be able to move and continue with their daily lives. I understand there are petty traders who cannot afford paying large premium insurance packages, so we are going to look at the losses that they have incurred and look into how to help them so that they can be able to get back on their feet. Number 5, I asked the security organs to ensure that they continue working and doing what they're supposed to do so that the country can remain safe. And the 6th, the acts of October 2025 claimed the lives of many Tanzanians, and it is a tragedy. And so let us direct our hearts towards God and continue praying for those who lost their lives. And let us also continue to pray for our nation so that God can continue healing us. And let us also stand with the word of God in the 2nd book of Chronicles, chapter 7, verse 14, that says, "If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land." Let us stand with this verse, and also the word of God from the Holy Quran. The word says, "O Lord, we have wronged ourselves, and if you do not forgive us and have mercy on us, we will surely be among the losers." We will surely be among the losers. So let us not be among the losers. We have already lost. Let us not continue walking in the path of the losers. So let us stand with the word of God from the holy book of Quran and the Bible. Let me ask all the religious leaders to stand in your position to heal our nation. All the leaders and my fellow Tanzanians, as I come to the conclusion, let me admit that personally, I did not expect this to happen in our country while I am a leader. And so I carried so much weight on my shoulders. But I want to promise you, as far as God will help me, I will carry this weight with confidence and with very much big caution. Let me repeat. Just like how God is going to help me and enable me, I will carry this weight with confidence, boldness, and caution. Once again, let me assure the Commission that the government has received this report and its recommendation, and together we and the Commission members, we are going to work on it. The recommendations that you have presented today, it is a pill that is going to heal our nation, and regardless of the taste of this pill, we must take it so that you can be well. The recommendations are going to be worked upon. We are going to make amendments of the areas that had some shortcomings. We're going to strengthen areas that had some weaknesses without forgetting the area of accountability where it is a must. And on this, the government needs your help, my people of Tanzania. Let us put more effort and stand and say, never again. It will never happen. My people of Tanzania, as I was following up the presentation of this report, I heard this sentence that says, we want the Samia that we know. As if when I got into power, I was the different Samia from the one that I am now. I want to assure you that I'm the same Samia of 4R, the same Samia of 4R, and all I ask from you is cooperation in implementing the 4R. And they say you cannot kill a few. Yeah, it takes two to tango. So when you depend on Samia alone to execute this, it won't be possible. But when we work together collectively, we can be able to reach where we are heading to. And so I call you all to unite for the destiny and the future of our country, for the benefit of this generation and the generations to come. I ask the Tanzanians, let us not be easily influenced to destroy our country. Let us not allow ourselves to be motivated by political leaders or people with evil intentions by any ways to destroy the peace of our country. Let us stand strong in unity to build the United Republic of Tanzania. Tanzania is ours. We have nowhere else to go. We have nowhere else to turn to. So if we build our country, we are going to live peacefully and in joy. If we destroy it, we are going to continue living and experience problems that have no end. And on that note, I wish you all the grace and blessings of the Most High. Let us ask God to bless our country, God to bless our leaders. Let us have unity, wisdom, and peace, which is our foundation. God bless Tanzania. God bless the children of Tanzania, just like what we sing in the national anthem. Amen. And thank you all so much for listening. May we all stand. Let us
Shukrani kwa Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano.
a round of applause.
Madam President, we thank you, and with how significant this event has been, allow us to have official photos out there. After the group photos, the President welcomes us for lunch.